Wednesday. Tuesday class will be at room 251, and our Friday class will be here. So before we start, I have to make one announcement. I have a very important department meeting at 3:10 today. So today I only run. Already, I saw smiling here. We only run up to 3. So yeah, I have to go straight until 3 o'clock. Sorry for that. So good news to you guys, right? So I just try to finish what we have already discussed last session about the business and society, and also I will talk about the plan that we are going to do for the remaining of the semester. Okay, so businesses and society, the concern in this chapter is that the manager, top management, mid-level manager, or lower manager, all the people in the firm should look at the relationship between business and society, right? So that is actually where we live here now, right? So without understanding those relationships with society, you just cannot run the company correctly, of course, profitably. So in that sense, we talked about what is the meaning of concerning society, where your business is actually operating, and in that sense also what is stakeholders. Before you, like year 2000 and before, we only looked at the shareholders' return, like satisfying their need, what they want. But this day, shareholder plus stakeholders, you have to care much for your organization's benefit. So in that sense, who are the stakeholders and why you need to care the stakeholders' concern and interest? What kind of benefits actually you will get by caring concerning the stakeholders' interest. So all those topics will be covered in this business and society. And the thing was that, like, if global companies especially didn't do anything wrong, certainly we don't need to look at like the relationship between business and society, and you don't need to concern about social behavior, corporate responsibility, and so on. But recently, like after year 2000 and afterwards, we see a lot of wrong behavior of many global firms, and because of that wrong behavior, we saw lots of people, innocent people, shareholders, community actually damaged seriously, like Enron case, and afterward a lot of like global firms like Tyco, and lots of global firms like Lehman Brothers, bankruptcy, for instance. So it impacts everybody, all the people in the economy. So that's why ethical behavior, doing good things is quite important. See, business, global firms created lots of scandals. Lots of activity become now issues and concern of our society. That's a current trend. So we talked about, because anyway, the society is getting more to the pluralism society. A lot of interest groups, their ones are diverse. They want what they want seriously, and whether you like it or not, company anyway care. Look at, listen what they want, and have to satisfy their need. So that's why we just lastly talked about, that's why we nowadays CEO classify further more like CFO, CMO, COO, and a lot of other a kind of a sub-CEOs, right, helping the main CEOs, because the CEO cannot really manage all the different interests of many different stakeholders under that pluralism society. So that is actually what the management, top management especially, should look at the stakeholders. 5 major groups as a stakeholders, and each stakeholder you see lots of sub-stakeholders, so you have to care them. seriously. So this day we talked about like community parties, especially. They are getting stronger and stronger. So even if they are not really involved in your business, they affect your sales in many ways. So you have to look at here, business have to look at who they are, what they want, and how to satisfy them. So that's what we were talked about last week, last session. And as you see, because why we need to look at this kind of wider, like many different needs from many stakeholders, because we nowadays have a serious social problem. As you see, social problem here is like the gap between, you see, social expectation and what really society can provide. Previously, like several decades ago, the gap between what society expected, especially from company, were not that widely, didn't have a wide gap. But this day, the gap is wider and wider. Why do you think that their expectation is more and more bigger, but what business can do for them is not that satisfying their need? Why do you think that we have a bigger and bigger gap here? So actually the gap here is a social problems. Why? Very vague questions, right? Hard to answer. But I think, yeah, this one, right? We are too smart. A lot of people educated, right? This day, everybody now know what company is trying to do, and also advancement of the communication system, and that actually caused rising expectation, and many reasons here. But the more important thing is that that social problem, the reason why social problem keep increasing, the reason why we have more social problem this day, and is simply because we have a lot of business criticism. Actually, the behavior of global firms are pretty much the same. What they have done in the past is pretty much what they are doing now, but we now have more criticism this day because we see a lot of business power here, right? So simply having business power ignite the business criticism. You don't like what global firms does, even though the global firm's fundamental intention to do something is not that much wrong. But anyway, if you don't follow, or if you do not respond correctly upon any criticism, then you will exactly take the iron law of responsibility. Here, the iron law of responsibility means if you do not use your power, as you see here, in the manner society wants, then you will pay the price. You will fail. That's actually iron law of responsibility. I don't know how it is said in Korean, but anyway, if you violate, or anyway, if you're not really following social consideration, who knows? The price you will pay will be huge at the end, and you will close the business. I saw before we talk about these things, what is business power here? Do you think that the company this day has some power? See, like global firms like, say, BP, British Petroleum, do you know what is BP, right? And or like GE, their annual sales size is bigger than like countries such as like Indonesia, Denmark, Saudi Arabia, and so on. So many global firms like top, say, 40, something like that, is bigger than a mid-sized countries, right? So So by simply looking at the revenue of global firms, we saw their GDP, simply say, is bigger than a medium-sized country's GDP. So just looking at the size of the firm, we see probably they may have some power. But before we criticize the business power, we have to define what business power is. Do you think really the company? So the point here is that I'm not really supporting the global firms, but when you actually criticize global firms' business power, you have to specify first what aspects of power you are going to specify. Otherwise, your argument probably going somewhere else out of nowhere. Right? So when you say business power, what does it mean? Especially this day, new types of business power you keep witnessing. I just saw an interesting news article. This is kind of business power. Probably you can certainly imagine. Like, what are the emerging superpower company this day? If you name. What? Xiaomi in what sense? Who says Xiaomi? Yeah, in what sense? Right. No, Xiaomi superpower. So they hire a lot of. So does the company impact some way to people or society? Does the company Xiaomi impact society or country in some way?
Yes.
What way?
They're selling cheap electronics to many countries, and these electronics can actually compete with big companies like Samsung now.
So is that bad?
Yeah.
Right. So in that sense, we don't really criticize much about the Xiaomi's business activities. Right? So any other company that you also see, this company is really having some power, right, to our society and our daily life. What? Shell? Which one? Yeah. What? In what way? Yeah, certainly. Yeah, oil company have a power, right? They actually providing resource. Without the resource, a country, company, people cannot operating anything. Yeah, so probably that is a kind of a business power by using fundamental resource. Especially just looking at this, like Google, for instance, is very powerful company. So you know Google, right? Or Facebook, it's very powerful company. So receive a very strong criticism this day. Anything wrong of this company doing? The article was this: the Facebook. Actually, very recently, the Indian government stopped the Facebook's internet service in India because of this reason. Facebook this day in India provided. They just started a new campaign, what they call a free basics. The campaign of the Facebook in India was a free basics. So simply this campaign of Facebook was that like providing free internet access to poor Indian people. So that was like campaign of the Facebook. But the Indian government just suddenly stopped this service. Why? So that is kind of example of a business power. The Indian government thought that by under the name of this campaign, the Facebook tried to say abuse a less educated and poor people in India. So that's why the Indian government stopped the Facebook service here. The reason was this one. If you, let's say that you are Indian people and if you get access to the internet for free under this campaign, you only use a specific website provided by the Facebook. So that's from the perspective of India, kind of informational bias. By controlling the, under this campaign, the Facebook control the information access and providing people of India with the very biased information. So that's why the Facebook couldn't provide any that kind of I mean, already this campaign was quite good, right? Providing free of charge internet access is quite a good idea. Like social kind of CSR activity, but it was stopped. The Indian government worry about someday the Facebook may controlling all of the information to Indian people. And after this stop, the Indian's major university also seriously criticized wrong behavior of the Facebook under the name of this campaign. So the thing, is this wrong or right, having starting doing this campaign? I think it is quite right, but whatever big company try to do in some countries, the company always receive that kind of criticism, right? So from the Facebook's perspective, from the top management perspective, whatever you are doing here, you have to expect what kind of a reaction from various stakeholders would be. So you have to prepare, even though your intention was quite good, but you will have a very sudden and unexpected challenge from the stakeholders. I think, you know what is Foxconn? What is Foxconn? Foxconn is like Chinese mainland, a big supplier of Apple, right? They make like component part for mobile phone. But if you like saw the newspaper a couple of years ago, a lot of Foxconn workers simply kill themselves, suicide themselves, because of a poor working condition. So that is mismanagement of the Foxconn. But actually, who received the claim? Apple, because Apple was the partner. The Foxconn is actually the Apple supplying partners. So wrongdoing of the Foxconn actually become the blame of the Apple. So even though you didn't do anything wrong, but because of your business partner, you will receive a lot of criticism. That's what happened, especially this day. So because of that, Foxconn cases, still the Apple mobile phone was not really that brilliantly sold in India, I mean the Chinese market. Where is my, okay, this one. And also, so I mean, like a business difficulty challenged by criticism, not because of your poor service or poor product quality, happen a lot this day. So that's why you have to care what shareholders want. I think I saw the newspaper also, like Lani Plaza factory in Bangladesh. There was a huge collapse of the building, killed 1,300 workers there, right? So because of this accident killing 1,300 innocent workers, who received the criticism? Walmart. So do you know what Walmart is? Like a USA retailer, just like E-Mart in USA, right? It's a big global giant in retail business. So Walmart actually received the criticism. So a lot of boycott in Bangladesh. So point again, misbehavior, wrongdoing of your partner even can damage your reputation, which affect also your business performance. Not because of your poor product quality service, but because of your partners, business partners, wrongdoing. Quite difficult time, right, to manage something, especially global companies. So the point from the educational perspective, when you try to criticize companies, especially the global firms' behavior, you should not just criticize them. You have to specify what specific dimension, aspects you are going to talk about, right? Like, of course, the global firm has some power. So here, the power means the behavior of the firms impacting our lives in many ways. But if we try to be specific on that part, we can say that companies, global firms' power upon us can be classified as some of this one, right? The global firms can affect us macro level, intermediate level, micro level, and individual level. So many different ways of impact here. Like individual way of global firms' power upon our life would be like individual figure of particular firms can affect our life, certainly our behavior and our, say, sometimes consumption pattern and so on, image and so on. Like Steve Jobs, we remember his famous graduation ceremony address in Stanford University, and a lot of young people probably may be touched by what he said. So, like particular figure in the company may impact our life. So the company can impact us individual level here, and micro level, like also Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Jack Welch, former CEO of GE, like Lee Byung-chul, Lee Gun-hee, Jung Ji-young, An철수, whatever, right? Individual figure of a firm may be influencing some of us here in some way. Micro level, the company itself already impacting to our life as well as to other companies. I'm going to introduce the case of L'Oreal. Because of that, L'Oreal's behavior become the standard of this is what ethical behavior of firms. Somebody may ask, what's the benefit of the ethical behavior? So ethical behavior, like good things, it's just some way spending company's money for nothing, right? It's like helping poor people, poor community. It's a good thing, but it is nothing to do with sometimes your money making, profit maximization. But L'Oreal showed us good things for your community indeed proved increasing the firm's profitability. So if the firm itself impacts us, our society, our country, especially this one, intermediate levels of corporate power also impact our life. If you see airline company this day, a lot of airline company do not run the business alone. A lot of strategic alliance, like Star Alliance, for instance, or like Korean Air or Asian Air, they form a lot of alliance with other firms, code sharing things. So that kind of patterns of business activity impact our lives. And this part, especially the macro level, at macro level, the company influence their power to our life. I mean, the textbook talked about corporate America, which is quite a very interesting terminology, not only in business but in sociology and ethics everywhere. See, if you visit like a company, if you look inside the company how they run, it is just like sports club. If you go to the company, they call themselves like team, right? Like team A, team B, and they just act like a sportsman within team, right? So that is kind of example of what they call like corporate America. Like what company does in terms of their, I say, a structuring system or hierarchical management is totally adopted by, say, government, a lot of non-profit organization and so on. So if you look at, say, government, for instance, the job title there, their function roles are exactly the copycat of what company does. Say, in company, they do not call themselves like business unit, like 부서, right? They just work as a team. They don't call them like 과장, 부장, senior manager, manager, director. Such kind of title simply disappeared this day in company, like private company, even in Korea. They just call team member, team leader, just like sports club, right? We are going to, you will learn what the team means in company. But the point is that the government also adopt the same mechanisms of the company's management exactly. So if you just visit government, like government is very hierarchical, right? Very strong, top-down line of authority and so on, just like sometimes military things. But this day, the government, inside the government, how they act, run is like company. The title of the government inside the hierarchy of the government is like team, 팀장, team leader, team member, and so on. So the point is, what company does this day, exactly followed by government, even the military forces, policemen, right? So their mechanisms of running organization, rewarding, motivating people, that kind of a business practice is exactly copied by many other organizations. So in that sense, business has power, and global firms' behavior impacting everywhere, at every levels, at all aspects. So the point here, if you try to criticize in good way or bad way of the business power, why not just draw a table like this, and you choose a particular part, particular perspective, and then you say something on it, right? So that is actually the point. Without clearly understand what aspects of business power you are talking about, simply criticizing means actually nothing, right? Back to our social problem here. We commented that the society expect more and more, but the companies the level of companies, but the companies are far behind for their expectation. So that gap is social problems. So the company this day try to do something to narrow that gap. How company can narrow that gap? That is the point. Certainly the textbook suggests two parts here. Some ethical business behavior and stakeholder management. Stakeholder management part you will learn specifically more in your, say, for the fall semester, what we are going to talk about here. Right? By doing some kind of ethical behavior, you can narrow this gap. So as I comment, is it really narrowing that social problem really helpful to the company's benefit? See, like Levi's, for instance, or Ben & Jerry ice cream, for instance, those two firms are kind of an example of kind of a performing good behavior all the time. But the thing is, because of that good behavior, the company's profitability keep going down. Do you think that that is good or bad? The ultimate goal of the firm is simply making money, right? Without making money, doing lots of social good behavior means nothing. Like Levi's case, or do you know what Ben & Jerry ice cream, right? Do you enjoy it? Yeah. Simply losing their market share, benefit, money, and so on, because they spend too much money, they put too much energy for social good things, socially good things. So in that case, I think that is kind of a bad example. So you have to be very wise to behave socially good way. So when you say a very ethical behavior of firms, what does it mean? Do we have any like kind of example on that good business ethics, right? You should not donate all of your salary to charity or the church or whatever, right? Your husband and wife will be crying, right? So you should be very wise and very balanced perspectives. So in that sense, do we have kind of example of a good business ethics? But still, so contributing to society, but still contributing the benefit, financial benefit of the companies. See, so that is actually questions. Now we know like a lot of expectation from the society. Satisfying them all, probably damaging your profitability. So how can you compromise those two different needs, right? Simply say, how can you spend more without really spending your own money, right? Probably, I'm not sure whether this is quite right, relevant example. So in management business study, like 지속 가능 경영, very common terminology in business textbook, newspaper, and so on. So like newspaper, economic magazine also like give the prize or give the medals to some firms for their a good example of sustainable management. So if your firm show a very good example of sustainable management, then you will receive some prize, award, and something like that. Because this one is like that. You maximize your profit, but at the same time, you satisfy and maximize welfare of your society. Do you think it is easy or not easy? Not easy, right? So that is actually what a lot of CEOs feel headache from. So that's why a lot of CEOs try to look at some example, how other firms actually show some example so that your firm can follow their practice or advance their practice. I think good example. Also, I just saw this one from a very recent article. I don't know how many of you here, lady, here wearing the L'Oreal. I never saw that L'Oreal does have that many cosmetic products. This one, right? The L'Oreal is now #1 cosmetic company. I think it is a French company. See, up until like year 2000 somewhere 5, the company was not really the #1, right? A lot of competitors, and also the company didn't have much generated big good profitability. And this is the guy, Jean-Paul Agon, the chairman as well as the CEO of L'Oreal, make the company a absolute #1 in cosmetic industry. How he did it? So that is the question. Can you see the picture here? Yeah. So that is the question, and this is classic example of sustainable management. So what was the strategy of L'Oreal? So just using our common sense, I think, to become the #1 cosmetic firm, what you should do is just spend a lot of money for R&D, right? And make a lot of good product. How many of you here using L'Oreal? Yeah, is it so? So I saw a lot of brand here by L'Oreal. Somebody said that Lancome is part of L'Oreal brand. Giorgio Armani, Ipsen, Laurent, Biotem, Kiel, Ralph Lauren, Victor, and Rolf. A lot of cosmetic brands is now part of L'Oreal. So somebody say that because of that M&As, mergers and acquisitions, simply buying these firms and increase your size was the reason why L'Oreal become #1, which is not actually. You see, like M&A, the chances of success through, the chances of growing through M&A is quite low all the time. So only like 2 or 3 out of 10 remain, and all other M&A mostly end up with failure. So M&A, mergers and acquisition, is not really this strategy of the L'Oreal. Sustainable management was L'Oreal strategy. So this is like current status of the L'Oreal. I'm sorry for the Korean here, especially for instance here. So what they say, this is like how the L'Oreal is now doing. 32 brand, 78,600 employees around the world, 501 patents. L'Oreal is now in 130 countries. L'Oreal is #1. Number 2 is Unilever. Number 3 is Estée Lauder, and so on. And this is how the story of L'Oreal. So the point of the L'Oreal is their sustainable management. So what they did was, #1, I mean, if you are the CEO of the, say, L'Oreal, right? What would be your, say, strategy? Just tell me. As part of the sustainable management, good social behavior, what can be the your idea for doing that one? Yeah.
Provide free shampoos for the poor.
Free shampoos. Yeah, that good things for, but for poor, providing that one, simply you just using your money. So what's the good side by providing free shampoo to poor people? Actually, that's what he did. Not exactly, but very similar way. But you said just providing the shampoo to poor guy.
Although like it might make the company pay a lot more, it will have its good side effects because people around the world will know about their behavior, and it will work as an advertisement.
I see. Yeah, that thing. Yeah, that's what he thought. So you will be someday become the CEO, right, of L'Oreal. Just try, okay? So his number one shared management strategy was a sharing beauty. Good idea, right? Sharing beauty. So what she said that just providing shampoo or soap to poor people, but how the Zhang, whatever his name, this guy, what he did was that rather than providing a free shampoo, he provided a skill, especially targeting the Brazil. I mean, the Brazil is not really a poor country, but there is area, a very poor community in Brazil, and setting up lots of the a beauty shop there and hire unemployed lady and teach the beauty-related skills by help them to set up the beauty shop. Of course, that beauty shop must use the L'Oreal's product. So sharing beauty was that one. Rather than directly providing the product itself, the company provided skills in beauty area, plus, as she said, provide some assistance to that beauty shop. A good part, probably increasing the reputation. The unique part of, say, South America here, that's South America. I think a lot of this kind of, how can you say, soap product like toothpaste, shampoo, or whatever, this kind of a detergent. Normally, this kind of product enjoyed a lot of here in South America a first mover advantage. Once you become the first product in that particular area, you just maintain that number one. I don't know why. That I think the consumer loyalty, product loyalty in that particular region would be strong. In my case, I just keep changing my wife actually keep changing toothpaste, soap every time. Lack of loyalty, but not the South America here. Once they choose a particular product, they just keep using it. So in that sense, like sharing beauty based on this strategy probably enhanced like consumer loyalty. So in the long term, the L'Oreal maintain their high market share. So there's part of the L'Oreal's number one sustainable management. And number two is equal return to the employees. As you see here, the L'Oreal does operate in 130 countries, what I call global firms. Let me tell you, like payment salary scheme of global firms are all different. Like say, if you run the business, if your firms are say located in say less wealthy country, they probably pay less. If you say office located in say London, probably people there get paid very high, right? So the payment, the salary simply say vary widely mostly. However, L'Oreal case, they equally return what they earn to the employees. Sounds easier, but very hard to be done if you really run the business, right? You should always make the balance, right? Like the European countries, for instance, very expensive to run business, so you just try to save costs from less, say, developing country, and that you just try to bring that money to very expensive countries. So in that way, you can make some balance. So workers in less developed country probably maybe not that much satisfied. But L'Oreal case, the CEO didn't do that one. So that was actually part of the L'Oreal's sustainable management. And number 3, he changed the corporate culture of L'Oreal, especially in supporting the R&D. I think this is quite interesting. Like if you saw the name of, say, Nobel Prize, dominant of them are male, right? Male engineer, male scientist. But L'Oreal, they emphasize in kind of equality, especially in male-female things. So when they actually do R&D for cosmetic, they hire intentionally lots of a female researcher. That shows kind of example of like equal opportunity of being hired and so on. In general, the laboratory very kind of hesitant in hiring female employee engineers, but L'Oreal actually didn't do that. They give more chance to female engineers. And finally, the company introduced a lot of environmental friendly product, recyclable product, and so on. Again, a lot of business practice when they are written on board pretty much sounds easy, right? I can do that. But when you actually really do this one back to your firms, I think most of the firm probably fail. So that's why leadership is so important, right? So again, sounds easier, but very hard to be done. So again, there is no like concrete answer in sustainable management. But again, how you design your own sustainable management actually determine your firm's future. Right? It depends on what types of business you are, what's the characteristic of your product, and so on. And finally, on one hand, you have to think about your company's unique sustainable management. Of course, the point here, like your good product, your like high-tech mobile phone can be exactly copied tomorrow by somebody else, right? But your very good practice like this one cannot be copied easily. So that's what I call a competitive advantage in business. So mastering, learning, internalizing your this types of business practice in management business sustainable way will be your competitive advantage, right? So good manager, good CEO is somebody who design this kind of ideas and materialize it in reality. So yeah, those are the keywords you have to remember all the time. So back to your home, please read carefully for that chapter. And we are going to talk about then also what is another major issues in stakeholder management, especially corporate governance and so on. So